Hi, happy Friday, and welcome to MidDay Café. I'm Tyrelle Barnes.
And I'm Mike Gannotti. And today we've got a bunch on tap, don't we?
We do. We're going to talk about employee experience advisory engagements. We're going to talk about Microsoft 365 Copilot Readiness, security and compliance, and licensing. So lots of fun things.
Yeah, that's a plate full. But before we start, just wanted to talk to you real quick. It's been a week. Last week we were remote, and you were getting ready to do an event.
Yes, a fundraising race for breast cancer.
Mm-hmm.
And it was really fun. We had a good time. We actually won. But
Well, wait a minute. So I really didn't know this already. So you won.
Our team won.
You said that your team really wanted to win.
Right. Okay, but wait, there's a catch. Unfortunately, so there were 3 timed sections on the bike ride. So it was 53-mile ride, 3 timed sections. Okay. And so somebody stole the last timing mat. So we got to the last section and we're just like, we are going. And I'm like, where's the mat? Where's the mat? Somebody had stolen it and it had GPS trackers in it. So they ended up getting arrested. But listen to this. D'Angelo decides to reassign the last from where he went to the last timing mat to the end of the race as the last segment. Well, we had stopped, we're drinking water, we're just taking our time getting back. So we actually didn't win. His team won because he changed the rules. So
that's how it works.
But it was good for a good cause, and we had a really good time.
Yeah, and it was for cancer.
Yes,
right?
breast cancer.
Breast
yes.
cancer. So that's huge. So even though you lost, you won.
Yes, exactly. We all won.
That's all good.
And I didn't get to hear some of your favorite, a couple of stories about your trip to Alaska.
Oh yeah, Alaska. This is my. I'm saying this is my semester or half year of travel. Evidently. So yeah, I think I mentioned it briefly last time. Went to Alaska for almost 2 weeks with family, and it was a great trip. The number one by far, we did a cruise. Number one by far was the time with family.
Yeah.
Just spending time. A lot of people know, some don't, whatever, but I'm adopted, and this is my biological, my father, right? And all my siblings that I never knew growing up. And so we spent a lot of time just getting to hang out and talk. But yeah, the trip itself, Alaska is amazing. I really recommend it. Going on the ship, we saw whales.
Oh, wow.
Right? Seeing the glaciers was just majestic. The cruise ship pulls into, I don't know what you'd call it. I want to say a fjord, up in Norway or something, but there was a fjord type inlet where we go in, and there's a huge glacier at this one spot that then goes around the surrounding mountains.
Wow.
And the cruise ship pulls up right close to it, and then the captain for the next hour just 360 rotated the ship.
Wow.
So no matter where you were getting views, and not only of the big part of the glacier coming down, which was just incredible, but then also along the mountain passes on either side of the inlet, there's these huge waterfalls.
Wow.
Huge. They don't look that big. They look like, some of them look like little stream rivers coming down. You can see all the white froth. But then occasionally a tourist boat with 30 or 40 people, so maybe a 40-foot boat, will come zipping by close to one and look like a little speck, and you get the sense of the perspective of how big. So we got to see all that. That was just magnificent. We took seaplanes to a place called Taku Lodge. So again, flying over different glaciers, and a lot of just the topography and seeing all the wildlife. Landed there. We had a big salmon meal, and then there are bears that come down because they grill the salmon outdoors, and the bears are attracted. Yeah, big bears attracted to it. So I got a selfie of my wife and I with a bear about 30 feet in back, chowing down.
I need to see that.
Um,
Wow.
Yeah, and then we
Grizzly
saw.
bears?
No, this was well. So it's a mix. So the one that came down for that particular time, and they said its name. He looks like a grizzly, but he's actually a black bear. Who's 5 years old, and him and his mom used to come down.
Oh, so they know the
And
bears.
the mom, yeah, they know the bears. In fact, there were 2 yellow labs that they have, and they were like, "Yeah, whatever, just ignoring the bear." And they, somebody asked, don't they get upset about the bears? And they said, as long as the bears don't do anything unusual, it's just a daily occurrence. So they tune them out. But the lab was sitting just looking to get pet and its head scruffed, and the bear's 30 feet away. So it was crazy, but saw those. The eagles were absolutely off the charts. There were bald eagles everywhere and close. So we went out. The one where I got the best pictures was actually with my phone and not my DSLR. And I was able to videotape because the guys, they go out, and we were on a tour. They're taking us. It was this place at another location where we were going to eat crab and stuff. And they take you on a tour of the area with the boats. And when they pull by, when they see eagles sitting up in the trees, they come to a stop, and they'll take a fish. They hold it up. Eagle sees it. They toss the fish. The eagle comes and does a hole. And so I've got these zoomed in up close on my phone, slow-mo videos of eagles coming in and,
so
taking.
Wow.
And then the last, so bears, eagles, and then the whales. Yeah, the whales. Whales we only saw off the cruise ship.
Okay.
But we did see humpbacks, a number of them. And we had one that was just rolling around and playing. It was laying on its back, and it had one flipper going like this, and then he rolled over and dove, came up, then got both flippers, was doing this, like he was clapping, and then had one sitting and the other one waving.
Sounds like he was showing off.
Something, yeah. And it was close to the boat. So I got some pretty good video of that.
Nice.
And it was, and then just it's basically untouched. It's not untouched, but undeveloped areas.
Yeah.
And
all
just
natural.
gorgeous.
Yeah. I'll have to check it out.
Yeah. Alaska is a great trip if you have a chance. Next one, though, is Caribbean. So cold to
hot.
to hot.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's all we've been up to, but there's a lot going on right now.
There is.
Copilot and Viva and all that. I know you had talked, and this is a brand new program, because as customers are looking at, how do I get ready? What is all this? How can it help me? What are things we can do? They're looking for help.
Yeah.
And you mentioned this thing called the Employee Experience Advisory.
Yeah. So this year we have 6 partners that we are working closely with to offer that employee experience advisory type of engagement, where they can really help a customer get a whole roadmap and around the journey that they're going to be on when they're trying to modernize their employee experience platform.
And before we get too deep into it, if a customer wants to do that, what does it cost?
Well, I think we're funding it.
So we're funding the program.
We're funding the program. There are some requirements.
Absolutely.
But the 6 partners are McChrystal Group, Accenture, PwC, EY, Korn Ferry, and KPMG. Nice. So if they're already working with any of those partners, that's something that we could discuss. And if they're not, we can also work on that. But reach out to your account team and ask about the employee experience advisory service.
You know what I love about that? I just kind of hit me when, because you had said there were 6 partners, but I hadn't seen the 6 partners. She wrote them up here on our board. So the 6 partners that are up there and that you just talked about, they're all not only able to help with implementation, but they're not just that. They're also strategic advisory.
This is strategic advisory, because you really, really need to kind of figure out where you are, what's your current state, where you are today, and what's your future vision for around employees experience digitally and the physical, like, devices that go with that
Yeah.
too. For hybrid,
Yeah.
for remote, for however your employees are experiencing their work environment, and then take that into account. It's also a partnership between the corporate comms group, senior leadership team, the different business segments, as well as HR and IT. So it's all
Okay.
of these different functions coming together to weigh in on the employee experience. And then also what types of, there's different employee populations. So if you have a frontline, population, and then you also have an office population, looking at the different experiences they need. So that's part of that advisory.
That's awesome. Because one of the things, again, while you're talking, things just kind of flashing in my head. I think I'm like the ADD kid. Oh, what squirrel? But some of the encounters I've been having in meetings with some of our customers where they're before they even talk to us, they've gone way down the road of like what they're calling requirements, but it's really feature function lists. And they're
Are
not
they
thinking.
IT? Is it the IT department?
It's typically IT. As a former IT architect, yeah, and so they're going down that road, and then they come to us and they're like, "Well, these are our requirements," and they're really not, because they're not looking. Requirements come out of strategy and around what are we trying to accomplish, right? Not, will widget X turn this way, and will profile picture look this way with the following attribute. That's features and functions. And when you do that, you miss the boat.
Yeah, you really do.
You do.
And then you end up even purchasing something that's not useful for the business.
Yeah.
And then they've already bought some other, point solution because it does what they need it to do. And yeah, it's it's better together.
Better together. So that's a great. So if you're a customer and you have your, needs around employee experience, yes, we have many tools that feed into employee experience. You should talk to your account team about getting that going.
Right.
Well, so that's the employee experience, which kind of leads into when we talk about, as you're preparing, into something like Microsoft 365 Copilot.
Right. And so first off, we have a lot of Copilots, don't we?
We do. And you want to talk, how many Copilots? Because I didn't realize there was that many.
We have 32 Copilots, and it's probably growing. So, we have a Power Platform Copilot, and Microsoft 365 Copilot, Viva Copilot, Security Copilot, GitHub Copilot, and we also have Bing Chat for Enterprise, which isn't called Copilot, but it is leveraging generative AI and the large language models. So all of those things. And you were telling me that what you're worried about is that you've got customers who they got into the preview even, right? Because we have a private preview right now for the for M365 Copilot. But there's some fundamental things that have to be in their environment already, at a certain state for them to be able to take advantage of this Copilot. So, and I was reading about it. And so can you tell me more about or tell us more about what customers need to be thinking about to get ready for Copilot?
Yeah. And I think that's important because, we do see customers coming to us. I had one the other day that their account team had submitted them for the preview, but they're fundamentally not prepared, and they're not going to be able to participate because there's too many things that would need to take place. And so, that is an important thing to look at. And that, again, comes along with that preparedness experience advisory committee. And so if we look at some of the things, the first base level is the employees that you want to enable. And I'm going to talk in terms of not all the others, but for really Microsoft 365 Copilot, because that's where I'm getting hit, and where customers, that when they see it, I had it again the other day, like some folks who were senior management, not necessarily IT, who when a number of things that we did and I showed in Word and Loop and others, they were like flipping out. Like, we got to have this yesterday. Take my wallet, please.
Mhm.
Right. But there are things. So, first of all, E3 or E5 licensing is an absolute minimum. And so that's for the people you want to enable with. Not, it doesn't have to be your whole enterprise. You might have a lot of frontline workers who are FSQs, et cetera. But to use M365 or Microsoft 365 Copilot, you need that because of the features that get lit up or that would be lit up as a part of that Copilot. And those are only available through E3 and E5. And you get more, obviously, with E5 than you get with E3 because you have additional features that get lit up within that. So that's the first thing. The second is, as a part of that, you have to have Azure AD accounts for those individuals you want to light up, right? So,
and that's Azure Active Directory.
Azure, thank you. Azure Active Directory. You're not providing access using necessarily something else. We need to have Azure Active Directory. That's not to say you can't have other security identity access systems that you're using in your portfolio, but for your 365, they need to have that account because, again, that account gets assigned the licenses, the enabling, and all that gets lit up. And they need to be accessing and authenticating to those applications or services like Word, Excel, Outlook with that account.
And is that because that's all underpinned with the security in a way that's going to make
it is, and we're going to get into that. Yeah, that's the second half of this. But absolutely, because everything around identity and access, I've already, and we'll get into that. I've had customers that, yes, we got to be in. And then all of a sudden they're like, well, hold the brakes. Oh my goodness, we might be exposing the keys to the kingdom and all this stuff.
No, you're not.
And you're not, but we'll get into that.
Yeah.
But so that's one thing. You need that account. That's another. The other is that you're on current channel for 365.
Now, what does that mean? What's current channel for 365?
Well, my current channel is if I turn on ABC, CBS, but no, it's so current channel is the rollout of updates. And so there's current, there's preview, there's delayed ones where you can be, and I've even had some customers ask where they had what we call the frontline licensing, where they don't get Office installed and stuff. It's just via the web, and they wanted to be a part, but then they said, but we want them to use Office, but we have an old version of Office that was a standalone, not 365 attached. And the point is no, because
you can't use Copilot.
It has to be current channel because we're going to light up those features for you in your current channel, so they appear just like any other new feature coming down. And that's going to be important too, as security and compliance, because Copilot is not a separate product or service.
Right.
It's it is something that gets lit up within your existing 365
right
products.
So it's already compliant, it's already been vetted.
Well, we're going to get into that. Yeah, but yes, short answer.
And I was thinking when you were talking about this, we do have our Microsoft Technology Centers. We have 40 of them globally. And that is a good place if you want to really kind of hone in on an architectural review session or even a strategy session around Copilot readiness, and kind of flesh that out with some help on what makes sense for your company.
Yeah, absolutely. Because you want to take a look at what is our current profile, and if your goal is, and I hear it all the time, and that's why they're like, take my wallet, please. Especially, and it's funny, it's the more senior they are, whereas in the past it's, well, okay, that looks good, but I'm going to defer. And the higher up we're presenting in the chain, when they see the differentiation and real, they understand the how that's going to rapidly improve productivity, output, what you're able to accomplish with doing less with more, or doing more with less. I mean, doing less with more, doing more with less. I mean, that's like, it's just like in your face, so readily apparent. And so they see that, but you have to have that posture or setup. Just a couple of other things that you need to do. And again, this gets into, we have customers who, we always say, look, you make the business decisions for you that you think is best. But we do recommend best practices and guidance. And some customers, say, that's nice, Microsoft. We think this is a better way and we're going to do it that way. And we understand what you're saying, but this is how we're going to do it. And that happens with the networks and network posture and configuration, where they'll route things through different other systems, external, et cetera. And I've run into it in the past with streaming media and how it was killing them with different, like, live streaming. Well, we go through this. Well, you can't for that because it chokes, and it can't. But it's called the Microsoft 365 Network Principles. It is published, so it's publicly available. And that's what we talk about when we talk about how to set your network for 365, get it ready, and the things you need to do. We recommend that you follow that because we cannot ensure that things will work properly.
Performance-wise.
Performance-wise. I had a customer yesterday ask me, well, so, we have a lot of people with poor bandwidth and this and that, varying degrees in their remote in their homes, et cetera. And I said, look, the processing is handled back end. But then that does, and for the most part, I said, if you look at like Word, your performance in authoring and going back and forth with Word is going to be the same if you're following our network. Okay? Because if you're doing some other process that then detects the AI, I mean, who knows what it's going to do.
So are you saying they can't blame the employees with poor bandwidth?
I'm saying that as long as they have a good connection, I mean, they're not going to see any difference. They shouldn't see any difference in what they're doing relative, to lag and all that, because of what we're doing service side, than what they're seeing today. And they brought up, well, what if they're in a plane and suddenly they lose connectivity? And I said, well, whatever's rendering in the back end is rendering in the back end. Whatever you've rendered in the front end is in the front end. Just like today, you lose connectivity and you were co-authoring a doc and somebody was doing something or chatting to you and you lose all that, well, you lost connection. It is no different. But so that was something, follow our network principles. Also, WebSockets for endpoints need to be enabled. And lastly, the plugins for Teams if you want the seamless experience, because we do use within Teams, there are plugins that you need to enable. If you're blocking everything, blanket blocking, that's not going to cut it. So that's at a baseline prep. We'll have a link to all this.
Okay, great.
Right? Because it's a lot of information.
It is.
And certainly, meet with us, talk to us. We can help you with that. We can get you hooked up with the MTC or others to help. But that's prep.
Okay.
The big thing that's hitting people or the big fear is what I heard with people moving to the cloud years ago.
Okay.
Security and compliance around their data.
And that's something that we put front and center in all our solutions is the security and compliance with zero trust. And so tell me more about that, what that looks like, because I get these questions too. They're really concerned about their data getting out. And I'm sure you've seen there's some things going on because, like in Europe right now, because a lot of employees were using WhatsApp and sharing data. because that was, they didn't have another like way to chat.
Yeah.
Provided by their company. So
but that was non-auditable.
Right. So that's actually, I think, one of a higher risk than worrying about what's in your Microsoft environment.
Yeah. No, and there's a couple of things. So first of all, we always say your data is yours, right?
Absolutely.
So the first premise we talk about, and I'll put in a link. There's a great video that we have that actually walks you through the architecture of how this all works. For those listening, it would be, I'd just have your head spinning if we try to just talk through it without visuals. So, but the data is yours. We bring ChatGPT, large language model, into Azure, and it is locked. We do not train the model with your data. That's different than the public version of ChatGPT, because they train the language model with data ongoing, because it gives all the context and, inferences and different things it needs to produce content. We do something else within your tenant, again, confined to your tenant, your cloud, secured at rest and at transit, right? So encrypted at rest and in transit, called semantic indexing, that gives that same effect.
Which we went over.
Which we've gone over
in a previous podcast.
So. And I'll give you the videos for that so you can see how that works. But so that's one. The data is yours. It does not leave the boundaries, and we don't train. It doesn't go out to ChatGPT.
No.
Right? It stays within your boundary. Number two, the bigger thing though that people get worried about is they're going to expose data. And I'm going to just step back. Step back in time with me, Tyrelle. And a few years ago, we announced the cloud. Oh, and we said everything can go up into this thing called the cloud. And
we had 3 clouds.
We had 3 clouds. And customers got a little worried.
I know.
Because I'm going to move all this documents and all that up. They had file shares of stuff, SharePoint shares of stuff, Exchange of stuff, all that. And we said, we're going to index all that when it's up in the cloud, and it'll be part of this thing called the Microsoft Graph, right? That you can then search on.
Right.
And we surface and search.
Right.
And they said, oh, and heads were, security and compliance people's heads were going, poof, because their data and security permissioning was a mess, and they knew it, right? And so, like many orgs, and my previous, going way back when I was corporate systems architect at very large financial services, one of the 2 largest in the world,
which is always worried about security.
Yeah, that's all they were.
Yeah,
they had the same issues right, because people were copying and pasting into file shares and blah 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 and all this stuff.
Right.
But because they couldn't actively search it, they could take that ostrich head in the sand approach.
Oh well, yeah,
right.
We don't
out
know.
of sight, out of mind.
Right.
But the move to the cloud really brought that front and center. And so, what we highlighted was your security posture. You should be evaluating that data. You should be putting policies in place, looking for identifiers like, so there's all kinds of things that could automate security based upon policy, not just hardwired that somebody put, right? So they've gone through that. They've already done that. Oh, I hope they did. If they didn't, shame, shame. And maybe this is a wake-up call that needs to happen. But no different than what search does today, because, again, it's data in the graph. We're not going out to your corporate database or your instance of Epic and going into Epic and pulling out customer or client, patient data and attributes.
We can't do that.
It doesn't. We're going to the graph. So now, do you have policies in place? You should. You should have things with DLP and others in place, because Copilot, although it's using AI And yes, it's doing generative. So it's not just a list of search, results, but it's actual content being produced. We still respect all of your security and policies in place today. And we only do it in the context in Copilot of an application that's already under that existing profile.
So same cloud terms and conditions.
Yeah.
Right?
I mean, if you open it, like they're like, well, you haven't certified this as HIPAA compliant and under our BAA where we're indemnified and blah, 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 and covered legally.
What's BAA?
It's an agreement between Microsoft and a customer that's signed to ensure that our things are in place to help them around security
and
compliance,
right?
really regulatory things that they need to be in lockstep with.
So you're saying that all of these Copilot solutions already fall under those
what I'm
terms
saying is, so it doesn't fall under your BAA today because to do that, we do an audit of the software when it becomes generally available.
Right. And we haven't made them generally available yet.
It is early access preview, EAP. This isn't even a public preview yet.
Right.
Early access preview. But having said that, guess what?
What?
When you use Copilot, let's say I decide, as an example, for 365, I open Word. Copilot, write me a paper on how Microsoft Viva can lower clinician burnout and blah, 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 and this and that. And it starts doing its thing. There is no separate Copilot application doing that.
True.
It's Word.
Right.
It's Outlook. It's Excel. It's PowerPoint. It's producing a document in an application that already falls under your security and compliance that you've already worked on and that you are under indemnified and all that good stuff. So person goes to save it. It's no different than them looking stuff up and typing it.
Right.
It's they have to still do the things they do that already fall under that umbrella. So will we say that this will fall under existing BAAs for customers? We've already publicly stated that.
Okay.
Right? And we're going to do all the normal stuff we do with audits. Having said that, if you're going under the preview today, a couple of things that they can do. Number one, it's only for the early access preview for up to 300 people.
All right.
So don't give the people who have access to that specific PHI data or whatever. And if you do, there's common sense. Number two, I mean, it's the same things that apply today, right? So yeah, I get like flustered sometimes because I'm like, there's no difference. We respect all your data and it's just in the terms of the applications you're already using.
Right.
So it's kind of a non-issue. And I will say, like, I had a great opportunity. Anthony Menyo, we know.
Yes, Anthony's great. He's part of our GBB.
Yes. Yeah. And he's Mr. Copilot now. And
awesome.
and he talked with one of our customers. Well, first he talked with us, talking about these things. And I was like, dude, you framed it out. That's the most useful because I'm constantly getting hammered.
Good job, Anthony.
Yes,
thank you.
It was awesome. But then he talked with a customer and those exact same thing. And they were like, oh, okay.
Oh, so it helped.
We're going forward. So, the two big things, if you're talking to your account teams, if customers are, if you're talking to them and you want to be a part of the early access program, make sure you're prepared, that you fall under the preparation pieces.
E3 and E5.
And understand the security and compliance. And my understanding, I saw this morning, I won't hit you. We talked about that. No hitting. I'm just pointing. So I forgot what the heck was I going to say.
Well, we talked about
totally blank.
you had to be compliant. You had to be on E3, E5,
Yes.
ADD, and you were going into this security things.
And into the security thing.
And I think you said that Anthony Minio is the co-pilot whisperer.
He is.
So if we need to get Anthony involved, we can do that.
We can do that with our healthcare, life science customers. We're happy to do so. I forgot what I was getting to. Again, the squirrel moment. So I'm gonna just I'm looking over at our notes. Yeah, I got nothing. But what I do want to close out with around all this is the last thing.
What?
Because we did get asked this. This wasn't what I was going to say, but we do. Cost.
Yeah.
Specifically for three different things, not the whole portfolio of 32 co-pilots and climbing, but for M365, for Viva, because Copilot and Viva, I'm already getting asked about that.
It's included. No additional cost for Copilot and Viva.
No, if you have
the Viva suite.
Yes.
So you need the Viva suite.
Again, that's preparedness.
Yes, absolutely.
And then you'll get it.
When it GAs.
And then for 365 Copilot, it is the list price, not our big customers price, but the list is.
What is it? I'm not sure.
$30 per person per month.
Okay.
For the ones you want to enable. Again, it doesn't have to be the whole
org, right?
And then Bing Chat for Enterprise.
That's included in your Microsoft 365 subscription.
Yeah, just got to enable it. That's a lot of Copilot today.
It's a lot of Copilot.
I'm glad.
Very exciting.
Yeah, and if you have questions, we're going to provide a bunch of resources around all this. Everything we talked about, we'll have links because it's all publicly available. We're not saying anything secret.
Right.
It's just sometimes like, that's what I was going to say. There we go. Secrets and saying. We had that meeting the other day with Anthony, and when we had our meeting just before it in the morning, my comment was, well, heck, this was yesterday. Why doesn't the product team have this out? And he brought up a great point. And then there was an event that happened that kind of matched up. But he said, look, when we went from on-premise to the cloud, it was a slow roll with customers. So we were developing all the expansive documentation, but customers were moving slowly, right? And methodically towards that. Now we're going cloud to AI, and they want it yesterday.
Right. It's like,
and we're not even out of early access. It's like, this isn't even the old way of saying beta software.
Right.
This isn't even beta. This is alpha.
Yeah.
In a way, right?
It is.
Because public preview will be beta. And we won't call it beta, it'll be public preview. But, so we're not even there yet.
Yeah.
And people want everything, including me.
We're building stuff in private preview. That's what we do in our private previews. We are actually still building the software.
And stuff disappeared. I had in a meeting yesterday, the day before, Copilot lit up again in Excel in the client. And then it worked, and I was all excited, and I went to demo it yesterday, and I had noticed it had disappeared, then it came back, and when I clicked it, it took me to a web page about Copilot.
Welcome to our world. Yes, we are on all our new technology, but you don't know.
It's preview.
It's preview.
And
it might disappear. It's still getting developed, and there might be something that changes and it ends up not having that feature that you like that you were using. So that's kind of the way it works.
But the point with all that is, the documentation and all this stuff we have for where it's at today, there is a ton of public stuff.
Yeah.
I was concerned about all of our security and compliance and the explanations around that because we did not have, it was lagging. There was some general stuff online. Sure enough, last night, one of the people on our call in the morning sent out in Teams, and I saw it this morning on my iPhone here. I pulled up, my morning Teams, and I saw a note and it said, hey, they just released this document. And he goes, all I could hear was Anthony's voice reading it because it was like everything he said verbatim. So
So
Great
we got
stuff.
it. We got it out. So it sounds like we're getting faster.
It's exciting times.
It is
So much
exciting.
happening.
Yeah. Well, I hope. Are you ready for an exciting weekend?
I am.
Yeah.
I'm going out on the boat with some friends. We're doing a dinner cruise
Oh,
on the lake.
nice. Oh, that'll be nice.
Yeah.
Looks like good weather.
Yes, it'll be 96.
Great
day.
weather for a boat. Yeah. Well, I hope everyone has a wonderful weekend.
What about you though? Before
I'll
any
be
last
riding my
thoughts
bike.
or
Oh,
anything?
any last thoughts? Just reach out to your account team. There's lots of ways that we can help. With advisory or with looking at architecture sessions to get you ready for Copilot or assess your readiness.
Yeah.
And thanks for joining and listening to our podcast. And hope you have a great weekend.
Yeah. And just as a reminder, you can always find us at MidDay Cafe at aka.ms/HLS blog. That's our blog website. And also we're on Spotify, Apple Podcasts. Just look at MidDay, MIDDAE, no space, MidDay Cafe, and also on Google Podcasts.
Sounds good.
Well, have a great day. Have a great weekend, Tyrelle.
Thank you. You too, Mike.
Have a great weekend, everybody. Bye now.
Bye.